Hey, how's it going, everybody? Back with another video. This is going to be another buyer's guide for the 2011 to 2019 Ford Mustang GTs. We're going to discuss the good and the bad of owning a Mustang GT specifically. We're not going to talk about the V6 models or the EcoBoost models just because it's too much to fit into one video, and that the GTs are primarily the most bought or sought after, I guess, for the performance guys, which is where I'm at in that realm, so I wanted to speak on behalf of that. And I've also never owned a V6 or EcoBoost. But to jump right in, the good obviously is that from the 2011 to 2019 range, we have 412 horsepower starting out with the 2011 models, and that progresses up to around, I think, 420-ish, 425-ish. In the 13-14 range, and then as you move up to the 16 through 19, it goes to 435, and then third gen is obviously at 460. Those are the 18 and 19 Mustangs. So definitely awesome horsepower, bang for your buck for a pretty cheap car in a sense, in the performance world. These come in both options for a manual or a 6-speed transmission. The 6-speed manual, the MT82, is pretty solid transmission up until the point where your car is like stupidly modified. Then that's where you're going to start seeing problems, and things probably will break. If you're doing roll races and power shifting or drag racing a lot, something's going to break. I mean, mechanical stuff always breaks, especially if you're beating on it. Like, there's no way around that. But between the two choices, those are obviously great. I did forget to mention, actually, there's a 10-speed choice, auto, for the, what is it, I believe the 18 and 19 Mustangs as well. So definitely a variety of options. There's something for everybody. If you're an auto guy, there you go. If you're a 6-speed guy, there you go too. If you want to bang gears. Let's see here. We got a variety of packages. The most standard one throughout the year range, I say, would be the premium package, leather seats, all that. Some of them have nav. Some of them have Recaro seats. It all depends on how the car was spec'd out when the first person ordered it. So that's definitely a common trait you'll see in regards to like the interior trims and packages. On the outside, I definitely know that there's been a track pack for at least every one of those year ranges. Maybe not the really earlier on ones, the 2011, 2012, but I definitely know the 13 and 14 and up. They all have track packages, and that includes like a shorter gear end ratio, so like 373s instead of like 355s or 331s. Also includes like bigger brakes, like Brembo brakes, better handling for suspension mods and things like that, like Ford performance parts. So it's definitely worth it if you could find one with those packages. At least that's more the merrier, right? So it doesn't hurt to get something like that instead of getting like a complete base model that you may not be happy with, or maybe you are, depending on how you use the car. Let's see here. Definitely easily modifiable. There's a big aftermarket ecosystem in terms of business for it. American Muscle is definitely one of the biggest ones, and their sub companies like Lethal Performance, MMR, CJ Pony Parts. I mean, you can just do a Google search and you'll find that there are tons of resellers and distributors that sell parts for Mustangs. So definitely one of the biggest markets. So you can definitely find something in every area of modification, whether it's intake, modifications, so manifolds, actual cold air intakes, turbocharged systems, supercharger systems, exhaust, and pretty much everything in between, fuel, all of that jazz. I won't dig too deep into that, but there is something out there from different manufacturers or Ford Performance where you can buy excuse me, to modify your car and go fast. The 2011 to 2014 Mustangs, those had a live axle on those in the rear end. So that means, in a gist, that the car's really good for the track, in a sense, going in a straight line. But in terms of handling and things like that, when you hit bumps and other things, it's just it's a little wonky. It wasn't until the 16 to 19 Mustangs, the Gen 2 and Gen 3 Coyotes, that they introduced the IRS again, and it's a fantastic setup in terms of it having your independent rear, suspension system. So definitely, I mean, that's kind of like a pick and choose between, you know, what's preferable for you and the other guy, I guess. I recommend doing some research and figuring out, you know, what's better for you in terms of how you drive and how you want to drive it if you're looking to buy one. The next item would be the exterior body styling. The 2011 to 2014 Mustangs, they definitely have a more, I guess, squared out look for the front and the back side of it, the rear end. Definitely more squared off, more of the older style muscle car looking stance that you can see. And between the two, the 2011 through 2012 and the 2013 through 2014, they definitely have some exterior differences. Mainly the 13 and 14s have different style rear end lights, different style front end, and you can definitely see that through pictures if you're more curious about how that looks. And then going up into the 15 through 17, definitely Gen 2's definitely had a completely redesigned, different look to it. And then jumping to the 18 and 19s, they got slightly changed, mainly up into the front area where you can see the differences. But overall, it's, again, one of those preference things. You just gotta figure out what you like, what looks good, and excuse me, I'm sick. What you feel is best to drive in, what you feel comfortable with, and what you actually really like. There's a lot of fanboys out there that'll tell you, you know, oh, the older body style Gen 1s look great, and the newer ones look like ass. I mean, that's, don't buy into that stuff. Buy what you want to get, buy what you like, and yeah, just be happy with that. As the years progress past the 2011 GTs, as you can probably tell with the way time works, the tech improved in the cars. So, I mean, pretty sure the 2011 through 2014s, I mean, they all had Bluetooth and the sync feature a part of it, which is like for navigation, as well as the Bluetooth sync and stuff that'll display what music's playing and all that jazz. So there's definitely newer tech as it progresses. I mean, as soon as we hit the 15 through 19 Mustangs, I mean, that's when you're seeing the Sync 3 newer version, bigger navigation screens, I believe, and a bunch of other tech that was just added and that makes the car, I guess, the quality of life driving it is a lot better. But if you're not big on the tech stuff, I mean, you can figure that out as you research a little more in depth, like what's actually on these cars as options, and be satisfied with what you get. So that's, I don't think that's a make or break depending on the type of person you are. There's always a way around that. Another positive I'd say is that Gen 1 through Gen 3 Coyotes, they have knock sensors and widebands, which is a big difference to the counterpart of the 3 valves earlier Mustangs, the 4.6 liter ones. They did not have those, so tuning is a little more difficult for the 3 valve ones, but for the 4 valve Coyote Mustangs, the 5.0s, tuning will be easy. Big aftermarket for tuning with that. A bunch of different companies that'll do that for you, so that's a walk in the park. That's easy stuff right there. But I think that's something to note, just because there is a difference in some of the years of the Mustangs and how easy it is to get tuning done after you've added your modifications, depending on what route you go. Obviously, if you do a dyno tune, then it's not too much of a heartache, but if you're doing street tuning or remote tuning, which are the same thing, that's when that kind of plays a little more into it. Besides that, they're overall great cars. I mean, they drive well, they respond great to just simple modifications, bolt-ons. I mean, if you do intake, tune, and exhaust, you're definitely going to feel the car wake up. It's going to go fast. And then as you progress from there and add more and more modifications for fuel and more air modifications and wrapping up the tuning and stuff, the car is just going to be a monster. These cars can easily get into the high 10-second range at the track if you build it right with a full bolt-on build. So, I mean, I don't think there's any shame in that. If you get a 10-second car that's naturally aspirated, then I feel like that's an accomplishment. I know a lot of people are a lot lower in the numbers, but those cars are usually supercharged or have some sort of setup that'll get them there, nitrous, whatever you want to say for that. Now on to the bad stuff. Just stuff to note. I mean, I don't think it should be a make or break deal for you, because I haven't noted that there's anything significant where engines are just blowing up or they're completely failing. I mean, there's obviously going to be those small cases where that happens. But with the 2011s, when it first came out and people were tuning them, there was a cylinder number 8 failure. I don't think that's around as much or as often anymore. I don't think that's even a thing. I think that might have been a byproduct of tuning those new cars, the new gens, the Gen 1s, at the time. So that was just something to note, just for your knowledge. Another thing I would probably say is to avoid getting the year models that are the first year of like the new generation. So obviously the new generation of the 5.0 starting would have been the 2011. So that's a hit or miss. I wouldn't recommend getting one if you really don't like have to, because the 2012s, usually the next year after, they'll figure out everything that kind of gets discovered with the release of the new generations. So I think it's a safe bet to just skip and go 1 year ahead, just to be safe rather than sorry. Same thing again, the 2015 Mustangs were the beginning of the Gen 2s. Better to probably go for a 16 or a 17. And then again with the 18 and 19s, probably say go for the 19s instead of the 18s, just to avoid the headache with that, because with the Gen 3s, there's something called an engine tick or a barbecue tick, typewriter tick. It does bother a lot of people. Some people have found solutions to get rid of it. Some people haven't, and they just have to live with it. For the most part, it hasn't been like detrimental to the car running. It's just an annoyance. So for some people, it has been where it actually caused issues. But I think those were